All righty, welcome into another primetime edition of the PA High School Football Report. A robust thanks to our sponsor, OSS Health, and our employer, PennLive / The Patriot News / PA Media Group. You have arrived alongside Eric Epler and Dan Sostek. Dan, let's just get this right out of the way. We won another award. Tell the folks how we secured our special prize.
We secured it because Bishop McDevitt was good at football last year.
Yeah.
The PennLive sports team won first place, best event coverage, sports event coverage for covering the thrilling Bishop McDevitt Roman Catholic state championship game. As I think I posted somewhere, it almost makes standing out of the 10-degree weather worth it. I'm not sure if it entirely, in the moment, if I told you, hey, you're freezing your butt off, but you're going to get a little plaque in 10 months, I'd say I'd rather be warm right now, but I will take the plaque right now. Yeah, good. That was a fun game to cover. Usually when we win awards, it tends to be because the kids in this area are giving us good stuff to cover. So it's usually a reflection of the sports teams around us for when we win stuff. So
in this case, it was the ugliest, most glorious short field goal made in Bishop McDevitt history.
Doesn't matter how you make it as long as it goes through them upright.
Does not matter. You were supposed to attend the banquet, but I'm guessing there was a chalupa backfire. What happened?
You were close when you guessed that. It was hamburger helper, and it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and I think I might have undercooked the ground beef a little bit.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's a young. No. You can't.
It tasted good at the time. A hamburger helper is kind of good.
Of course.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Thankfully, Evan was masterful in walking over and picking up the award from the table.
I mean, I saw the pictures. Evan looked as Evan Whedon typically does, a little bit overstimulated and overexcited, but got the job done.
It absolutely did. Evan Wheaton, of course, part of the award-winning team. Austin Herzog was in on it. Ramir Vaughn was in on it. And, of course, myself and Dan included. So, anyway, thank you to the Society of Professional Journalists for the nod and our coverage of the 20.
And I was sick because I don't turn down free meals. So.
Exactly right. Yeah, something was going on. I feared for you. Because, again, you throw down a lot of chalupas, man, and that'll get there.
5-layer burrito is my Taco Bell item of choice.
What is it?
5-layer burrito.
Yeah, even worse. Good for you, though. You made it back strong and healthy again. All right. Hopefully we can impress the judges next year again and keep getting invited for the chicken and sides. They did have a couple sides. I went last year when we won.
They have tons of cake and everything, too. I was really upset.
The cake was amazing.
There were a lot of pastries. Yeah, a lot of pastries.
They didn't have all the pastries this year. I think they knew you weren't coming.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm not a pastry guy.
No, I have to be really in the mood.
Yeah, they're a little decadent.
But I'll go back for another chicken breast. You know what I mean? That's.
They had the chicken breast. They had 2 types of lasagna.
Oh, for them.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's great. Well, we hope to win again next year, so thanks again to them. We would update you on the search, obviously, to replace James Franklin at Penn State, but according to all the experts, and there are millions of them, no less than 14,000 coaches across North and South America are potential candidates for the job, so we're not going to go through all of those. I think Jimmy Johnson and Bill Cowher have yet to be named, but they will probably this week. Why not Narduzzi, Dan? Give me one good reason why not Pat.
Because Pat Narduzzi, it's the typical Pat Narduzzi Pitt football year where the year starts and everyone wants him fired, and then it ends with him getting another contract extension somehow. So he'll be at Pitt long after we're dead, I think. So
I love that guy. That's what you need. We need chaos right now. Yeah. All right, let's get to the rundown before we get too much in the weeds here. All right, we're going to revisit some superlatives. We're going to deal with them now. On a conference level, we talked about division breakdowns about 4 weeks ago. Next week is going to be devoted to the postseason. Most of you know Week 10 is upon us, so Friday and Saturday equals the finale for the regular season. Tough to believe it, 10 weeks in already. So we're gonna expand these things and elevate them, and we're going to talk a little bit about Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year candidates, maybe newcomers of the year on a conference level, Mid-Penn, of course. But before we welcome in a very talented and explosive dual-threat quarterback, Susquehanna Township quarterback Torin Evans will join us, I don't know, roughly, 10 minutes. He's given us a few of his time right before practice, which is always appreciated. Obviously, he's done a heck of a lot for that Susquehanna Township football team. I've been a 3-year starter, or 4-year starter, really, for the Indians. And of course, as most people know, the Indians are sitting there perched 9-0. We'll close, of course, with some picks and predictions on just the games that have serious sort of implications, whether it's division-wise or postseason implications. There's a couple of mid-pen squads riding that fence between having a Week 11 or Week 12 game and closing their season after this weekend. So remember, it's Week 10. All right, playoffs begin, Dan, in about 216 hours. But first, let's get to some superlatives. We broke them down, like I said, by divisions weeks ago. Now we go conference level. Let's start with Coach of the Year. I want to get, and again, we don't talk about who you picked. I don't tell you who I picked. That way we can banter back and forth on them. But I'm going to let you start. Give me a couple candidates for you that you believe should be Coach of the Year.
Yeah, to me, I still think we kind of talked about this a little earlier. I just think it's Jamie Thomas has the most clear-cut, bulletproof case. To me, what sets him apart with the job he's done in his first year at Redland is, the 5 wins to start the year were nice. But I think what's been the most impressive thing is that the team had a 2-game losing streak. The 2-game losing streak were 2 games they were in. And he did not, and that program did not, let those losses spiral into something really bad, which I think we see it a lot, right? These teams that no one expects to start hot, win one kind of surprising game early, a couple surprising games early, and then, fade as the season goes. That has not been the case for Redland. They've completely picked themselves up and are 7-2 now, and their wins look pretty darn good now. That Lower Dauphin win looks even better than it did at the time. The Cedar Cliff win, when that happened at the time, I think some people were like, "Ooh, maybe Cedar Cliff is down." Cedar Cliff isn't down. They're still a real good football team, and their 2 losses were games they were completely in the whole time. Just the culture shift for me is a clear feather in his cap. I know there's another guy you're going to mention, so I'm not going to mention him. But I would have to go with him. I think you have to put Joe Heaton in. I think that when you're kind of faced with the pressure he's been faced with, which is, your kids all kind of stood up for you to get your job back. You've got to win. And they lost some guys from last year. They brought back a lot, but they did lose Lex Cyrus. They lost some pieces on the line, and they have just been taking care of business each and every week. So he'd be another one. And then the third one, another longtime stalwart that I just want to mention, that I don't think people aren't necessarily going to be pointing to for this just because of how much success the program has had throughout the years. And that's Andrew Irby. That program has been through so much this year, not having a home field, assistant coach passing away, the shooting that happened in Steelton recently. And I don't think there's many coaches, if any, besides Andrew Irby that could have the program kind of stay the course the way he has with all that adversity. So those are kind of the 3 that stick out to me.
Yeah, I think Thomas is obviously a no-brainer to be in the running. And again, I think some people, and I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule on what the range is time-wise. In other words, if Redland would go in, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, of course, but if Redland would go into the playoffs to get bounced in the first round, does that hurt Jamie Thomas? His sort of nomination for this? I think this is a 10-week deal.
Yeah.
This is this should not be based on what postseason results are. And I think if you're looking at a potential 8-2 season for Redland, nobody in the state would have thought that 8-2 was possible. Even 7-3 was possible.
I mean, there's still people that are coming to Cedar Cliff games that look and see the Patriots logo in the end zone and say, "Who's that?" It's still a program that has been searching to find its name for itself. They've had some success in other sports in recent years, and it's one of such a strange dynamic there, right, with the 2 teams in the 1 school district. It's always felt like Cedar Cliff has had the leg up in football, but it's been really cool to see that community come together and support this team, because I think, again, it's been a culture thing.
I agree 100%. It's hard to believe 2014 was the last time the Patriots made the playoffs.
Yeah.
2014. So what's that? 11 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
was still in
pretty
college.
impressive. And then when I say miss the playoffs too, like really miss the playoffs,
Yeah.
2 or 3 win seasons, or worse. So he's done a fantastic job.
And it's been with a lot of the players that were on the team last year too. It's not like he brought in some ringers or whatever to come fix the program. Quinlan Shear's been the quarterback, and he's just that kid's on the short list for most improved players. I think he's a completely different football player this year.
I agree, and just the belief that these guys have when they're walking on the field, they expect to beat everybody every week, and that's the kind of attitude you need. Speaking of sister school, I think Colin Gillen is particularly in the running too. I think having to go through that schedule, moved into the Commonwealth Division when they've had success, but obviously we're sitting below and staring up at Bishop McDevitt for a bunch of years. I think Gillen has done a tremendous job with Cedar Cliff in getting them into the 6A playoffs in the season they're having right now, 5-4. But like I said, that schedule's brutal. And I'm curious to know who do you think the other guy you said I'm going to mention him. Who do you think that is?
I said Alex or Andrew Irby.
Okay.
Yeah, just for kind of I think the being able to keep his team locked in with everything going on off the field with that group is something that I think only Andrew Irby could do for that program.
Yeah, I think Irby obviously certainly deserves to be in the running too. My third guy I actually have is J.J. Ortiz from Middletown. Middletown's a team.
No, the guy I thought you were going to mention was Gary Carter from Chambersburg.
Well, yeah, Carter's like on the short list too. But I mean, J.J. Ortiz is a guy, obviously first-year head coach. I don't think it's ever easy coaching your son.
No.
Especially when he's playing quarterback. I just don't think it's easy. But I've seen a toughness in Middletown this year. And, there's talent there, but not a tremendous amount of it. And I think he's done unbelievable getting max performance out of those guys. And I'll tell you what, they've held some defenses, or they've held some offenses in check. This defense is legit. They play together. They play hard. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. They're opportunistic. All those things you look for in a good defense. And I think that's really been the key for them. And again, this will be their first playoff appearance in 4 years. So I think that's something to keep track of for them. But all those guys obviously are certainly worthy. All right, Dan, let's move on to newcomer of the year. I only put down 2. It depends on how you sort of label newcomers.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see who you have.
I mean, yeah, again, my newcomer, I don't like doing this typically, but with this specific case, just because this guy's a senior, but in terms of the way he's impacting the team and the program, I'm going with West Perry's Adam Yoder, just because that has been we've known, they've had Brad Hockenberry kind of touting the rock for a long time, but this team obviously knew it was going to have to run the football, especially when Hayden Fleischer went down. And they tried Evan Jippa. They've been moving Evan Jippa back and forth, left and right. And Adam Yoder's come in, and he's been on the team, but I don't think anyone preseason was pegging him to be a second in the entire mid-pen and rushing yards this year. So I'd say he's a newcomer to kind of that echelon of football player. And there haven't been a ton of like freshmen and sophomores this year that have really kind of broken out, so to speak. It's been a lot of kind of players that have been waiting in the wings, kind of waiting for their chance to make an impact. And he's been a big one. And a big reason West Perry has just continued to truck along as one of the best programs in the mid-pen.
Yeah, I would agree with Yoder for sure. I threw out 2 guys. I think Sebastian Williams done a blue collar job taking over that quarterback at Bishop McDevitt. The numbers are not staggering by any stretch of imagination, but they really are a rushing football team. It is completely sort of a little bit different than Stone Saunders. I mean, most people probably forget. They had 2,000-yard rushers last year. You know what I mean? Everything goes off the running game for Bishop McDevitt. But I think Sebastian's been mostly efficient. Stayed the course after starting 0-2. I could have been, it's a real downer. You start off as a regular starter and you're 0-2. Again, to good teams, but still. You kind of come back now. They've won 7 straight. I think he's done really good. Another guy I'm going to mention too is Landon Howell, the running back for Cedar Cliff. If you run the ball at Cedar Cliff, you're going to be the workhorse. You're going to get lots of carries. This is a guy who had 14 carries last year and 50 yards. 50 rushing yards last year as a sophomore. I mean, now he's approaching 1,000 yards. And obviously we talked about where Cedar Cliff is in the pecking order in District 3 6A. So I think you have to have Landon Howell on this list to be in that discussion.
Yeah, I mean he has just been money for them. Super reliable. I've also liked the work Jalen Hinton has done in his first year, kind of replacing Bennett Seacrest. I think he's been pretty impressive too. So that was another guy I was looking at as well. Yeah, they've both been real solid guys and have Cedar Cliff within a win of getting to the 6A playoffs again.
All right, we're closing in on the interview with Susquehanna Township quarterback Torin Evans. So let's go through these real quick. We're going to drop names here, Dan. Offensive Player of the Year. I got a pretty heady list here. I could probably make this about 10 to 12 deep off the top of my head. And most can find the stats on PennLive.com. And we're talking Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. They're all scattered throughout. But who would you have in the hunt for that for Offensive Player of the Year?
Well, it's hard to look past our upcoming guest, Torin Evans. 2,000 passing yards, 25 plus passing touchdowns, 600 rushing yards. He's been, for my money, the best quarterback in District 3 this year so far, at least in terms of performance. You can say 4A versus 6A, things like that, but he's been absolutely money for the 9-0 Indians. The other one, it's always tough to narrow down on a team like Harrisburg, who you're going to give the credit. PJ Dent's done a terrific job replacing Messiah Mickens. Michael Shank's done great, but I think we both agree the kid that kind of sets the tone. It's hard to call him a kid now. He's a senior, about to head off to be a Division I football player, but I just think Elias Koch sets so much of the tone for that team. Offensively too, but offensively, I think he's matured in such a way where it doesn't even seem like it's not like he's flustered if he's catching short passes. Like, he's doing everything on the field now. He had 8 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. He sees the game really well. I've seen him on the sidelines plenty of times pointing out things to coaches, saying, hey, they're defending us this way. Let's attack this way. And you don't get that from a ton of wide receivers. He really knows the game. I think that comes from playing safety and kind of looking at the field that way as well. And I just think that he's one of those culture setters for Harrisburg. He's obviously been an impact player since his freshman year. He's going to has a ton of Harrisburg records. We'll set some more soon. So yeah, those are the two guys. And then Deontay Sheffy. It's just been so fun to see that kid back to doing what he was doing before an injury-filled junior year. So those 3 guys would be the top 3 for me.
Yeah, those three guys, Evans, Sheffy, and Koch, were on my list. I added 2 more just because I could. Caden Maurer, the quarterback for Line Mountain, I thought has been tremendous as a dual threat there. Line Mountain, of course, is undefeated. And I don't think we could have a conversation without mentioning Cam Sweeney from Hershey, quarterback. I know he got dinged a little bit against Mechanicsburg last week, but came back, gutted it out. They didn't get the W, but Hershey, if all things fall in line to get a victory here, they'll be playing past the regular season. So Sweeney's just been tremendous. He's just so difficult to lasso, whatever he's doing, passing, throwing.
And the amount of physicality he plays. Like, I said this last night in my soccer game I covered. It was a girls' soccer game at Chambersburg. They upset undefeated Northern, and the person who scored the goal was James Madsen's softball commit, Bree Pato. It's always cool to see these players who are what sport their primary sport is, and they're still putting their health on the line to win games for their schools, and that's what Cam Sweeney's done all year. He does not look like someone who's trying to make sure he makes it through the season healthy. He's trying to be healthy, but he's not. That's not his first priority. He's trying to win football games for Hershey, despite how important he is to that basketball program. And I'll tell you, I don't think Paul Blackburn would want any other ways. Watching from afar. So it's always fun to see guys like that.
Absolutely. All right, run out the names. Defensive Player of the Year. Who's on your list?
To me, there's a couple guys. Hard to look past Hunter Strom. Leads the conference in tackles for loss, 100 tackles as well, 5 sacks. He's in that Cam Sweeney boat where he doesn't have to be playing football right now. He wants to be playing football. And he doesn't have to be taking on the workload he does when he's got an SEC baseball commitment. And he's carrying the ball 39 times, making 20 tackles every night. He's one guy. Colin Stair, a former guest of the podcast, another guy that he mentioned it on the podcast, but you watch a Mechanicsburg football game, he's getting double teamed every single play. Every single play he's getting double teamed. And then sneaky guy for Harrisburg, Rick Brown and Noah Ewell rightfully get a ton of credit, but Isaac John Lewis has been really, really good for that football team all year long. I think he's right behind Understrom, tackles for loss. I think he now leads the conference in sacks. He's a guy as well. And then Jasper Sheps is always dangerous as a defensive back. So those are 4 guys I'm looking at.
Yeah, I definitely had Strom on my list. I went with Drake Dawson at Mechanicsburg. I think Drake. I mean, you could mention Jack DeLuca in this spot. You can mention Stair. You can mention Dwyer to give the nod if you're going to pick one guy from Mechanicsburg. But I think Dawson's made the biggest impact overall. Maybe an unexpected impact, and only sort of galvanized that defense. Because that's the side that shows up absolutely every single week. No disrespect to Reese Miller, no Apple, and the guys on offense. But I think, I think Dave Hecker would agree, this thing starts with those front 7 guys. And Drake Dawson off the edge has been a terror for teams to control. The other guy I want to mention is Hayden Johnson, the linebacker, Cumberland Valley. This kid just plays at 110% nonstop on that side of the ball. I'd like to see him get some more carries on the offense because I think it's a guaranteed 5-6 yards for that guy. But he's been tremendous in defense and just sort of the kind of roller coaster season Cumberland Valley has had, has sort of overshadowed what Johnson has done and sort of done for that defense. So that's a guy I absolutely wanted to mention, and he should be in discussion for that. All right, we are thrilled to be joined by Susquehanna Township senior quarterback Torin Evans. He's the guy leading the 9-0 Indians. So he's on the horn. So let's get to the interview. Okay, we are thrilled to be joined by Susquehanna Township senior quarterback Torin TD Evans. He's the guy leading the 9-0 Indians who look to cap off a perfect regular season Friday against Waynesboro. Torin, how are you, my man?
Pretty good, feeling good.
Nice. I want to just first let the listeners know how number 15 has sort of handled his business so far through the first 9 weeks of the season. Our special guest has, get this, completed 129 of 188 passes. That is a brisk 69%. 2,022 yards. He's currently the only mid-pen passer to breach the 2K number. He's got 26 touchdowns and just 3 INTs. To boot, he is averaging 9 yards a carry, 164 rushing yards, 10 scores, like I said, for the 9-0 Indians. How much ice do you need on a weekend, brother?
Listen, I go to Rejuve every day, and on Saturdays after my game to get a little cryotherapy in, get some red light to make sure I'm ready to go every Friday.
All right, now I'm interested in this cryotherapy. Do you go into the tube for like 90 seconds? How does that work?
Exactly. You go into the cryo tank for 90 seconds. The temperature drops to about, I think, like negative 120 or 130. So it gets pretty cold. But yeah, once you get in there, once you get out, you're woken up and you feel great. Like you can go again.
I don't trust the tanks, man. You got to wear the booties, right? Gloves and booties.
Yeah, you gotta wear the gloves, gotta wear the shoes, gotta wear the socks. Oh yes, gotta make sure you got all the hands and feet covered so they don't fall off.
Yeah, you kind of need your hands and fingers in your profession, brother. All right, so I wanted to ask too. I mean, 9-0, getting to 9-0. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do. You guys are a big picture program now. You're not just thinking, let's get a division title and wiggle into the playoffs. You guys have big plans. But what has been sort of the things that have worked well for you so far? I know I'm in the camp that I don't think you guys have played your best yet, and you're still
100%.
sitting there 9-0. So what do you think you guys have done well to get to this point?
I think, offensively, we've been able to execute pretty well throughout the weeks. Had a little shakeup in a few positions up front due to some injuries, but ultimately we were to get back right after Middletown and kind of figure that out. And then, yeah, I mean, defensively, they're holding it down for us. They haven't given up many points a game, which, when your defense is holding every team to 21 points or less, it makes it very, very easy to, be able to come out and win the football game. But yeah, I mean, focusing on what we got to do week in and week out, not worrying about who the opponent is, what color jersey they got, worried about doing what we need to do is how, we'll be able to get here.
Yeah, Torin, obviously we all know that you're a good athlete. We've known for a while. You play baseball. I know you're a good bowler too and everything, but I don't know how many people expected this season for you to have the rushing year that you have had. We've kind of talked about it after a game before. You've always had it in your game, but haven't had to use it haven't had kind of this prolific of a rushing season yet. I mean, the game the other week where you had 400 passing yards, 100 rushing yards. I hope people add you on their fantasy team. But
Listen, great week.
did you come into this year knowing you were going to run the ball more? Is it just something that has presented itself more? And how important is that for your game now and as you get to the next level?
Yeah, so I think, coming into the year, I definitely had some thought that quarterback run was going to be really helpful. It just adds an aspect to the game that makes it extremely challenging for the defense because now you have to always have someone accounting for them. And then when you don't, big plays happen. And I knew coming into the year I was going to be running more. And because after, my sophomore, freshman, junior year, I ran a little, but I wasn't looking to run as often. I wasn't as aggressive on the reads when it came to run reads, pulling or keeping or whatnot. But I knew this year, I want to do whatever it's going to take for us to be able to finish where we want to. And running has been a helpful part in a couple games for us this year. So, I'm just hoping to be able to continue to do that.
Yeah. And obviously this offseason was kind of a wild one for you guys, right? It started, I thought it was really cool, when Coach Heaton was temporarily kind of not renewed or whatever, how the team all kind of unified and do
Mhm.
you feel like that situation only kind of fortified the strength of this group and kind of the camaraderie of the group to know, hey, we all came together to make sure that we had the leader that we thought we needed? And do you think that kind of set the tone for the season, that you were playing for something more than just wins and losses?
Definitely. We've all on this team for the most part been here for a while, and he was the
Hmm.
guy who was always in charge, and we got a lot of love for him and always got his back. So it definitely strengthened things, knowing that we were able to help him and, continuing to help him by going out on Friday nights and doing what we got to do to just make a statement every week.
We're talking with Susquehanna Township quarterback Torin Evans. And Torin, I wanted to go back a little bit to the running attack. Having a guy like Rakai back there, I know Xavier's back there as well,
Hmm.
has almost, at least in my eyes, Dan and I have talked about this, created an additional wrinkle that defenses have to account for. Obviously, you've done really well running the football, but having a couple guys back there who have been really effective in sort of setting up the defenses a little bit because they have
Hmm.
to now account. Everyone knows you got to account for Jarrett, you got to account for Zakir Leaks, you got to account for Josh and that
Hmm.
passing game of yours. But now with Rakai sort of leading the charge in the run game, I mean, how valuable has that been to the success of the team?
It's extremely valuable. Football is a 22-man game. You got to have all guys being able to work. And obviously, I can't do all of it myself. They're running the ball, running hard, opening things up. Sometimes we have a rough passing game. When we need that run game to get working, they get working. And it's been really nice having two guys back there. So you don't got to worry about overloading anybody. We keep them in the rotation so they can stay healthy because injuries are the biggest thing that can hurt a team down the road. And it's definitely been helpful having those two back there to really help set up things in the passing game and pop a few runs when we needed them.
How healthy is the squad now? I know you got a couple guys back, and but obviously after 9 weeks of banging, everybody's kind of bruised a little
Hmm.
bit. But obviously, you want a full head of steam going into the postseason. Well, how healthy is everyone?
Everyone's looking good, man. Obviously Brandon went down still high, unfortunately, but our center. But he's actually working to get back. He was snapping the other day, so we're optimistic about that, hoping he can get back. But for the most part, everyone's pretty healthy, getting a little rehab, a little tweaks here and there just for, getting banged up on a Friday night because things happen, you're hitting, those kind of things happen. But no, we're looking healthy, looking strong, and ready to make hopefully a deep run here.
Yeah, I'm always interested in talking to players about this, and they're kind of PR answers. But do you guys pay attention to what's going on in 4A outside of your area? Like, were you checking out that Twin Valley, like kind of checking for updates on Twin Valley? Why I'm missing? Just because obviously when you're at this point,
Hmm.
you're going to be in the playoffs, and we know what your goals are. Are you kind of looking at what those teams are doing at all, kind of measuring yourself a little bit? Are you real? Is it really just we're focused on the building 100%?
Obviously, we're focused on us, but not even really for comparison, but just to
Mhm.
kind of see, how they look, how they're doing, especially because
Mhm.
YMSA plays Saturday games. We're able to watch the Twin Valley one.
Mhm.
But yeah, we did,
Mhm.
we've had our peaks of just, seeing them, watching them, because obviously you want to not look too far ahead, but we know that those are the
Mhm.
other top competitive teams as of right now, standings wise in 4A. So definitely just looking at them, watching them if their games are available, but we're not hyper focusing on them right now as we still have to worry about Milton Hershey this Saturday getting right.
Yeah. And let's talk about you for a little bit. I saw Coach Heaton made a tweet say he doesn't like doing these tweets where, he's telling coaches to come look at some players, but he mentioned a couple kids in your team, including yourself. Obviously, you've had a couple looks, right? A couple, you have teams interested in you. How's your recruitment been as a senior? How have you enjoyed the process? Has it been stressful? And where are you currently at right now? Because I imagine for quarterback, it's especially with like the portal and everything, the
Mm.
position you play, one of those musical chairs type positions where they probably wait a little bit for some positions. Just can you take us through what this process has been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, especially as a quarterback, it's definitely been, there's a roller coaster. There are highs, there are lows, there's really stressful times, other times there's great times. But honestly, it has been pretty enjoyable going to the camps and stuff, spending time with, my family and even some of my teammates and friends that, excuse me, we wouldn't have, maybe normally done is always nice. And then right now,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm in a good place recruiting wise. I've been able to talk to some PSAC schools, just kind of building more of a relationship there. And there are a few FCS schools that are still reaching out because obviously the portal happens. If that happens, that's great. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I definitely have no problem playing in the PSAC, man. They got great football in the PSAC.
Torin, what's on your wish list? I mean, what do you want to find? What do you start? Obviously the football situation aside. I mean, what's sort of on your wish list as far as campus environment, things like that? I mean, what's on the list?
I mean, I definitely want a place, obviously I want to be able to go to a place I can get some academic scholarships, get some athletic scholarship if that, if it has to split. And then, I want people that, you know, I want to be more of a college-like town. They got good football. They have people that come out, support the games, come watch. Just kind of that thing. Is what I'm really looking for.
Are you planning to study cryogenic uh, science or anything like that?
Nah, I'm actually right now. I'm taking a computer class, IT class in our high school that we do that pairs with Harrisburg University. So we're in like the second part of that class. So hoping to be able to do something like that in college.
Nice. You mentioned Milton Hershey, obviously on the docket here Saturday. I think it's a Saturday game, 1:30
1:30.
on their campus. Have you had a chance to see them and get prepared, or what do you notice about the Spartans?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're always a physical team, always fire off the ball well. So it's really, just going to be worrying about us once again and making sure we keep the penalties down. That's one of our biggest things right now is we got to keep our penalties down and just having fun in our last regular season game. For us seniors, this is actually, for us that have started for 4 years, it is our first year, our first game we played at Milton Hershey Stadium. And so our
Wow.
last game now is going to be at their place, same situation. The last time we were there, or not the last time, but the first time we were there, we ended up losing that game. So we're hoping to end it off this time the way that we want to.
Yeah, what would it mean for you guys to finish up? Obviously, you're playing for much more than a regular season, but 10-0 in a regular season is pretty impressive. No matter kind of how the whole season ends. Was
Mhm.
that one of your goals coming into the year, looking at the schedule, feeling like you could win every regular season game? Does that give you a little of a lift going in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives you a lift. Hoping to just keep the momentum rolling. Playoffs is big on momentum. Just got to keep going, keep firing, and just stay hot. But it wasn't. I don't think it was, a circled goal on the list to go
Hmm.
10-0. But I know
Hmm.
that we said, if you focus on going 1-0 every week, that 1-0 eventually adds up to 10-0. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the fun things about your team is how many different weapons you guys have. How fun has it been? Obviously, you've played with a lot of these guys for a long time. How much fun has it been throwing the ball to guys like Jared and Zykeer. Obviously, you had Lex for a while, and then those two guys have just kind of stepped up completely. And it hasn't even looked like you guys have missed a step of losing an SEC wide receiver. How big have those guys been? And, Josh, obviously, who's going to be playing defensive end in the next level, but has been a really good tight, I guess I call him a tight end, right? It feels like he's
he's
kind
a
of like
mix. He's a little tight end, little
big
receiver, got him.
receiver.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really
Yeah.
good.
But how
Everyone,
big have those guys been?
they've been huge. I mean, obviously, we've had some guys up front step up that we were hoping and relying on to step up. And they've held their own up there, and they've taken on that role. And haven't really taken many sacks this year. And if I did, I probably shouldn't have. It was most of the sacks that I've taken have just been me, trying to do something, or I might have held the ball a little too long, but they've held up great up front. And obviously the guys outside, can't do it myself, and they do a good job getting open, blocking on the bubbles when they need to. They're very selfless. They don't just, oh, me, I want the ball. I think we have 6 receivers over like 150 receiving yards, and 5 of them I think might even be over 200. So, it's really selfless, and no one is complaining about not getting enough catches or getting whatever. They go in week in knowing that at any moment the ball could come to them. So they got to be on their toes, be ready to go, and ultimately it helps us, succeed.
All right. So, all right, we're going to let you go here real quick, but 2 quick things I always like to ask. A, what's the pregame meal?
Pre-game meal, it hasn't really been specific. We have team meal every week that's provided for us by one of the team's moms. But I know if you want post-game, I got a post-game one that I have every week, but I don't have pre-game. But post-game, I always have. My dad always brings me gummy bears. He brings me a strawberry smoothie, and he'll bring me one of like the Sheets wraps. So that's my go-to post-game.
That's a good dad, man.
You can do that when you're running for 100 yards. You get all that cardio in, so you can eat
Gotta
whatever
get
you want.
got to get the carbs back. Got to refuel the energy.
And then you can freeze it off anyway. But the last thing is I have to know who has the messiest locker on the squad.
Oh, that's a good question. That might have to go to Jasani Brown. I might have to give him the messiest locker. He always got his book bags in there, some shoes, some drip in there. He always got something in that locker.
That's terrific. Terrific. Torin, we're going to let you go, my man. We appreciate it so much for giving us a few minutes. Obviously, best of luck against Milton Hershey on Saturday, and of course, running into the playoffs. Keep doing you, man. You've been doing a tremendous job, and we look forward to seeing Hannah in the postseason and to see when you're going to wind up. Give us a holler when you decide on college, and we'll be there for you. Okay, thanks for joining us back here, Torin Evans. We appreciate the time. Hannah's quarterback. They got a game on Saturday at Henry Hershey Field to face the Milton Hershey Spartans, and hopefully they are gunning to complete a 10-0 run on the regular season. I already wrapped up the division. The Colonial Division's been theirs for about 10 days maybe now, but it's been a real ride, and it's going to be a very interesting 4A bracket in District 3. I can tell you that much. With Twin Valley rolling around in there, and Wyomissing, and Lampeter Stroudsburg, and
There's going to be a good team coming out of 4A.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun, physical bracket. I'll tell you that. All right, Dan. So we talked superlatives. We talked to Torin Evans. Let's get to a couple Week 10 games that matter. We'll run through these pretty quick. There's not a ton, but there are some mid-pen teams right now on the fence. Could really use W's and a little bit of help to kind of squeeze into the postseason. Nobody wants to end after 10 weeks, but they're facing the thing. We're going to start in 2A. Upper off of Juniata. This is traditionally a good rivalry. I think it's two good football teams. Upper Dolphin has really clawed back after a really tough start, and they could sneak in here. Right now, they're on the outside looking in at the 5th hole. Only 4 teams qualify. Who are you taking in Upper Dolphin Juniata?
I'm going to lean Juniata just because I think that they're one of those. They've been one of those programs that starts playing its best football towards the end of the year, and I just think that they've got a little more top tier. It would have been really fun if Owen Savage was still healthy, because that kid's a wrecking ball down there, and just one of the best defensive players in the area. So, but Upper Dauphin has done a really commendable job. When I think a lot of teams would have folded up shop and be like, all right, this season's lost, sticking together and playing through the season, putting themselves in opportunity. So Carter, I'm not positive how to pronounce his last name. Drybelbis has been fantastic for them, but Juniata has been a pretty stout defense all year. So we kind of know how Upward often attacks teams, and I think Juniata is a little equipped to stop that.
Yeah, without the threat of the pass, I think this is, load up the box and see if Drybelbis can sort of steer it. I mean, he's beaten a lot of defenses. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard kid, so it'll be interesting. But I think you're right. I think the slight edge is to Juniata, who definitely want to go in with some steam into the District 6 postseason. They've sort of owned that spot over the last 4 or 5 years. So, all right, let's move into Class 3A. Right now, 6 teams qualified. Trinity and Big Spring are locked in of the playoffs, and it appears as though Trinity will be the 3 seed, Big Spring likely the 5. So I don't think anything's going to change here. I know Big Spring has a big game coming up, and let's move on to 4A, where we'll talk about it here. East Pennsboro, sitting there at 5-4. They are in the 10 spot. 10 teams qualify. Very uncomfortable spot for the Panthers right now, and they play versus Big Spring. So a loss here and an Elko win might steal the final berth for the Panthers. So who do you like in this one? This game's interesting.
Yeah, Big Spring has kind of been it's kind of been the thing I was talking about Redland, right? Where, you have the surprising start and then things start to kind of, snowball a little. East Pennsboro has not had the the end of the season it would have liked either. So they're kind of two teams that are scrapping and clawing a little bit. I'm going to lean with East Pennsboro just because I think they have a little more depth. I think Big Spring's a little banged up right now too. I don't think Grady Hope's played in the last couple games, but I'm going to lean with the team that has been there the last few years. That'll get the job done. It is a good game though. I think Rymir Vaughn will be at that one. So
yeah, I think it's a pretty even matchup too. I think the fact that East Penn definitely needs this one. Obviously, they're going to be ready, and I just feel like East Penn has sort of let teams hang around when they've had the upper hand.
yeah,
and that's Big Spring's not a team you want to let hang around. You need to keep the gas down to get by these guys. I mean, they got a lot of tough kids. Beamer's a kid to check out. Obviously, you mentioned Grady Hope, which has been out of action. But Chance Fry, a quarterback, is a dual threat kid. He's tough, and Big Spring has the ability to kind of milk the clock a little bit and play their tempo. So East Penn does not want to allow them to do that. All right, 5A, 12 teams qualify. I don't see Bishop McDevitt falling outside the top 4, even with a loss to State College. Obviously, that's a big old game in the Commonwealth Division this week. Mechanicsburg hosts Shippensburg. That'll be for the Keystone Division title. Who do you like in that one, Dan?
there are two teams. Mechanicsburg and Shippensburg play kind of alike this year. It's not every year that they're kind of, but I think Mechanicsburg has found the type of football it needs to play to win football games, and it is kind of reminiscent of some Eric Faust physical defense.
Yes.
Let's run the ball offense. I like Mechanicsburg just because I think they've stepped up in a lot of big moments this year, suffering their first loss of the year, then come back with a big win, having that big win over Redland. They've won these kind of drag them out, concrete matches sort of. And I think that's what this game's going to be. And I think they have a little more juice offensively. Mark Carruthers is a really good running back. Slight leaning Mechanicsburg. Maybe it's that traffic down 81 to get them to John H. Frederick Field, but I'm leaning Mechanicsburg.
Yeah, I'm leaning Mechanicsburg too. This could literally be a 7-6 game or something like that. I don't see a tremendous amount of offense in this one. I'm not sure complete health of Noah Apple, the quarterback of Mechanicsburg. He's been dinged up. We talked about Reese Miller earlier in the show. Yeah, I feel like both of these teams are obviously squarely in the playoffs, but it is for the division title, which is important for both programs. Redland obviously is in as well. I think I lean Mechanicsburg to home field advantage. Got to be worth 3 points, right? So we'll call it 9-6 final. We'll do that. All right, 2 teams right on the outside. 12 seed right now, lowered off in 6-3. They're going to be a big favorite against Gettysburg, so they do need a W and obviously a little bit of help. And right behind them in the 13th spot right now is Hershey. They're going to host Waynesboro, and they'll be a favorite in that one as well. I'm not sure the math. I didn't go through all the math on what needs to happen, but one of these teams could be on the outside.
And that's gonna be painful because both
It
these
will
teams,
be.
all their losses are one possession losses. So it's there. I mean, I talked about it with Josh Borelli. I talked about it with Mark Painter. It's, they've both felt like they're better teams than their record indicated because they were a couple plays from winning games and just being locked into a playoff spot. And now you can flip that a little bit with some of them and be like, hey, you also won a couple games by one possession. That you can't just flip the result of the game you want to flip, but not the game that you don't want to flip. That's not how
Right.
football works. I mean, I think they're both clearly playoff caliber teams, and I, it would be a shame if you don't see Hunter Strom or Cam Sweeney with a chance to end their football careers with a playoff game.
Yeah, fully agree. All right, last but not least, 6A. Obviously, 10 teams get in.
I have no feel
Harrisburg.
for this one. I have no feel.
Well, Harrisburg's playing East. Obviously, an important. Harrisburg's important to get to 10-0 because Central York is right there in the number 2 seed. Harrisburg 1 right now, walking in. They are neck and neck. Practically have the same weighted win percentage. Practically the same opponent's weighted winning percentage. Central York plays York High, which could be an interesting game, especially with the Panthers coming off that loss to Archbishop Hoban, where they had a shot. They were down 26-21 in the fourth quarter, and then all hell broke loose out in Ohio, out in Akron. 2 defensive touchdowns for Hoban and a special teams touchdown in the second half did Central York in, gave them their first loss of the season. So that's we talked about Cedar Cliff being in. They're going to be a mid-seed. Cumberland Valley is likely going to be a mid-seed as well, but their game is obviously important to even up their record at 5-5. Chambersburg looks like they are good to go. Central Dauphin needs a lot of help. They need a victory over Cedar Cliff, which is no easy task, as we talked about, and they're going to need losses by Cedar Crest, Dallastown, and Governor Mifflin to have any kind of shot to squeeze in to the top 10. So that's your lookout going into week 10 of the regular season. Lots happening. Obviously, we want to thank again our guest, Susquehanna Township QB Torin Evans. And I'm looking forward to week 10. There's some interesting matchups here. And obviously, we're going to be talking brackets next week. There'll be previews up on Penn Live for this week and all the good stuff. You can check out rankings and features and standings and all that stuff. Just check out PennLive.com. Again, thank you for joining us. And obviously, we'll be back to talk more football next week.